Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, headlines of music, and the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Wendell Burns, on my counterpart, Savon Morris, who is the most prepared person, prepared co-host today. How you doing?
It's a beautiful morning in Zamunda. That's what it is.
That's the right way to put it. Well, we have a lot of topics to get into for this one. We're going to get into some NFL and NBA ones in the first half. In the second half, we're going to do a review of Daquan Tyrone. To start off with, Dalvin Cook headed to the Jets. Earlier this week, it was announced that he was signing a one-year deal worth up to $8.6 million with New York, and he was released June 8th after four straight Pro Bowl seasons with the Vikings. And this is a very interesting move because this stabilizes the backfield for New York. But also, it's one of those interesting things because we're going to be talking about another running back who headed to the AFC East team. What did you think about this move? A couple weeks before the season starts, and just how this will help the Jets.
Great situation for both parties involved. Dalvin Cook has not declined. His first 2 years, he battled injuries with the Vikings. In the last 5 years, 4 years, this would be a 7th year in the NFL. Last 4 years. He's been 1,000-yard running. 1 year he had 16 touchdowns. Another was 13, 6. So he hasn't declined, and he's a weapon out the backfield as well. So he's going to be a dual threat running back. And I think that's what they were missing last year with the Jets. They were 25th in the running game, only averaging 100 yards game. That's not going to help.
Not going to cut it.
A rookie quarterback last year in Zach Wilson. Now you have a veteran quarterback who's is used to having a good running game to sustain the drives, and when the wide receivers are not on the same page, the running game with Aaron Jones can work. Now you got a veteran guy in Dalvin Cook who has not declined, who still has some juice in the tank. So I'm not sure why people were so hesitant on grabbing Dalvin Cook, where it's clearly set that he hasn't declined. And I think this is the situation for him because they want to have a good running game like they used to in previous years. Now they have Dalvin Cook, they have a couple of the backups, and I think this will give Aaron Rodgers a peace of mind when it comes to the whole ensemble of the offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is interesting because a lot of teams, they just didn't buy in. They didn't cash in on the opportunity to get him. Like, do you think sometimes teams can overthink when you have a running back that's available? Because a lot of times the analytics and just like, okay, like this guy, he's not as efficient as he once was, and you're just overthinking just the base. Hey, like you need a running back to stabilize your team late in the postseason. Just to get into the postseason, like in those late regular season games. Like, do you think sometimes teams just kind of overthink that aspect of it?
It depends on the situation, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, no organization really needed a running back besides the Jets, Miami Dolphins. The Vikings drafted a couple guys. So in this season, there were a high need for running backs. And if they did, they already satisfied that need with draft picks, or they went with other veteran guys, because we didn't know what Dalvin Cook was going to do, or what the Vikings was going to do with Dalvin Cook. So I think if the situation is different now, but I think he's in the right situation. But sometimes teams do overthink, or they was like, well, we don't have that money to give to that position where we have a higher need, a higher chance of being a better team fully if we put more money in this position, because running back is becoming a position that's whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they're devalued as a position in the NFL. So now you look into other positions like a left tackle, like the offensive line, who's going to protect your quarterback, or big time wide receiver who's going to take the top off, or you look into your secondary. So running backs are disposable, because it's a lot of running backs coming in and out of college. There's a lot of veteran guys, a lot of shifting parts. Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, situations varies, but I think in this sense, Dalvin Cook is in the right situation for him. And I think him being at the practice, just sitting there watching, slobbing her out the mouth to get the opportunity to play with the Jets. I think everything worked out for well. And I think he'll have some type of relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is an inviting guy. He's going to teach him some other stuff, and he might even be better in the system with Aaron Rodgers than he was with Kirk Cousins. Now sending out
NFC North rivals.
Used to be NFC North rivals. Now he's in the AFC. So I like that. Dalvin Cook is one of my favorite players out of Florida State. If I had a favorite player out of Florida State, because I'm
I
a
know you hate to say this.
Gator
I know you.
Colors
I was about
guy,
to say, just
but
give me Florida State any compliments.
you would think it was Derrick Brooks. I love Derrick
Mhm.
Brooks. I met him a couple
Yeah.
times, but my favorite player from Florida State is Dalvin Cook. The guy is
Look at you
special.
casually putting that in. I've met him. Met
I,
him a couple times. You got
yeah,
some
I mean,
speed
he's from
dial.
Pensacola, man.
Yeah.
He's from Pensacola. He's be at some of the youth association events, so it's just one of those things. Now I'm not. I never met Emmitt Smith though.
Oh no, that would have been different.
Yeah, whatever. What a guy.
What a guy. And now moving on to Ezekiel Elliott's move to New England and just, who's going to be the top team in the AFC East. He agreed to terms with the Patriots on a 1-year deal and helped address, one of the thinnest positions on the roster. And Bill Belichick, he's just a savvy coach in terms of knowing how to put pieces together. And I feel like this is another this is a good move for New England because Ezekiel Elliott, like we even mentioned a couple episodes ago with the Tony Pollard situation and how Dallas they were centered on Tony Pollard. They really didn't want to keep Zeke much longer because they had a newer, younger guy that could really help that backfield. But what do you think about this move for New England and just how Zeke can fit with them?
Whoa, I was at first I was thinking he's been in limbo for a while. He's been in free agency. It's nothing that's stuck. Nobody
Mm,
was interested of it. It's decline. He had 800, I think 876 yards rushing,
right.
averaged like 3 yards a carry, which is not it's not enticing for
Mm,
some NFL teams when you know the devalue of that position.
yeah.
And but he did have, I think, 14 or 16 touchdowns. So I think then I thought about what Bill Belichick and what their offense normally does. You look at the running back situation, they've never had the big time running back. They've
Ever.
always ever, even with Corey Dillon, Kevin
Yeah.
Falk, these guys were like 6 late round draft picks that kind of panned out and fit in the system. Sammy Morris, Lawrence Maroney, who was at his tail end of his career, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, Stephen Riley, LeGarrette Blount, Dion Lewis, Sonny Michel. None of these are big time running backs. They fit into the system well. So I think it was a strategic move. And I think Ezekiel Elliott won in this sense because now I could go in a system where I can be a dual threat because for a time, Ezekiel Elliott was the best screen running back in the league. Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys in their screen game was amazing. So Patriots love to do that. They love quick screens. They love getting their running back involved. And I think he'll be a third down back. I think this is his time to be rejuvenated and find that love for football again. And where not to do it,
Best place to do it.
New England.
Find your identity.
Exactly. It's the best position for him to be in. Do I think he's still that great running back coming and just running over people or trying to, no, I don't think he's the same running back, but
Yeah, to
that's
run.
good. That is good. You don't have to be the same running back. You have to find new ways to be a better running back. So I
Exactly.
think him being with New England, he can be a better running back. He can find new ways of being a better running back, and Bill Belichick in that offense will figure it out. And he had Mac Jones, who's on the uprising to be one of the top quarterbacks in this league. And they have some weapons on the outside. The offensive line has gotten better. So I think they're going to be run pass heavy, which it'll be workout for Ezekiel Elliott so he doesn't have to have that burden on his backside to say, I have to average 5 yards a carry. I have to do
Right.
this. No, I can just get into the situation, work
Mm,
into the passing game, and then the running game will open up. So
yeah,
I think
definitely.
it's a pretty good situation for him.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's just like New England is, we always talk about those franchises that are just like first class, like
Yeah.
the Spurs, like the Heat, in like another sport. But it's just like New England, they're just that first class organization. Like if you come to them, like like you're gonna get a really like strong foundation, and you can kind of like reshift your career and just the whole look of it. But before we move on, like, have there been because we are into preseason, couple games in the preseason. Have there been any teams or any players that have stood out to you so far in these preseason games?
Oh, I would say the hometown here. I've been watching a lot of Seahawks and
Mm,
offense and defense. Devon Witherspoon looked really good.
yes,
Him
man.
him being out there. I forgot the guy's name from Ohio State, the wide receiver that he drafted. My. Gino is going to have a time of his life.
Hmm.
The guy can get separation. You could put him in the slot. He could take off the top.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare gems and wide receivers that you get for the Seahawks. And I think them being able to get those players after the season they had last year, there's a lot of upside to them. And then I was looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not sold. I know you
Yeah.
said what stood out, but this stood. I'm not sold on Baker Mayfield. I'm not sold on Kyle Trask. I'm not sold on that defense who won the Super Bowl in 2020. They are on the decline. I don't think regress. And you would say, oh, maybe Baker Mayfield and Mike will get a connection. I don't think so. Baker Mayfield has had some top wide receivers in his day and has not had a crease connection to them. It's been wrinkled. That was a good pun, and I should have never said nothing. I should have kept going. But hey, sometimes
you got to acknowledge these. Sometimes
you got to acknowledge the
punchline.
But no, I'm not sold on it. I love how we're looking Green Bay. I was totally surprised. I love the connections, direction and connection that Jordan Love has with the wide receivers. The offensive line looks good. Defense is getting stronger. They're buying into the new age of Green Bay Packers. But no, I was definitely watching the Seahawks heavy. And then I've been watching Tampa Bay because I'm a Kyle Trask fan because he's from Florida, but I'm not sold on
what the team's doing.
That offense. Yeah, I'm not sold just yet.
And after listening to the NBA and James Harden's recent comments about Daryl Morey, man, Harden just finds a way to stay in the headlines. And a couple of days after, it was reported that the 76ers ended trade talks involving Harden. He ripped Daryl Morey and said, quote, "Daryl Morey is a liar and I will never be part of an organization that he's a part of," end quote. And to me, like, Harden is really he's pulling that generational superstar move of like,
yeah,
I am going to cause a complete firestorm, and I'm going to bring everybody down with me if I don't want to be here, and I'm going to get my way. Like he's just adamant about, I am going to get out of here. There's nobody that's going to hold me back, and I'm going to go on a media tour, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Like,
right?
What have you thought about this recent news of the Harden and Daryl Morey comments, and just what Harden is looking for after Philly?
Man. You know what's crazy? If this is any other player, like a subpar player, this would not be in the news, right?
Mm-mm.
But I'm glad it's James Harden, even in his prima donna, stances at sometimes. But I think this is more moral than any of his outbursts while he's been in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because Daryl Morey has been under investigation prior to this, with the cut of, I think that's what he's lied about, that there was going to be other incentives for James Harden when he took that $14 million pay cut to get PJ Tucker and Noel House Jr. And I think you have to do this because you're a business. This is a business, right? And these players are business owners as well. So if you're going to lie and say, I took a $14 million pay cut when I didn't have to because of incentives or promises or reneges that you have done, and you think you're just going to be okay. Now they're going to spring up another investigation, and that's what the talk has been for a couple weeks now with Stein. He was like, there was one investigation that we know about, and that they're going to look into it again to see what. But everybody's thinking like, what is he talking about?
What's he actually talking about? Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I love when top players blow the lid off. In a good moral, I think this is a good moral stand because that's bad business. And then the NBA is already under the light. NFL is already under the light.
Yeah.
NBA has been declined viewership for the past 5 years, even pre-COVID. So now we need to fix these things. These players, if you're going to treat these players as numbers or business deals or business transactions, they're going to treat themselves as such, and you have to adhere. Adhere to great practice. You're going to do that, so we're going to do that. I'm going to hold you accountable. And some of these general managers don't get held accountable, not even by the general manager. Stop. The commissioner. Stop.
Commissioner.
Accountability, man.
The accountability is really crazy because players, we even mentioned it a couple months ago with the Dame situation about like, hey, like, Dame can say he wants to go at a certain place, but the managers and the owners are like, "Hey, we're going to put you where you need to go." You can say all you want to. We can say all you want to say, but at the end of the day, only like even looking back at the decision by LeBron literally you have to be like that, just once in a generation type player like LeBron, KD. You know what I mean? Like you really have to just to be like, hey, I demand where I go. But if you're not, then that's where things change. Like, do you think certain players, even in this generation, like the younger players like Luka, Zion, are going to have to kind of even realize going forward that, hey, even if I get to a crossroad of Dallas or New Orleans, I've got to know that I may really not end up at the place I want to be.
Right, true. But I mean, that's when your agent, your team, whoever you have that you pay 5-10% to each year,
Yeah.
that's when you guys come up with the plan, the understanding where the upside is. What can and cannot you do? Because with LeBron's situation, he was a free agent, so he had the power. He satisfied his contract. He did everything he had to do. Now he had the decision to come back or leave. So it obviously with every situation it varies, but with Luka and Zion, they're gonna have to realize: did I satisfy my contract? What's the upside? Do I have to choose? But if they have it and they want to trade, say Luka wants to trade in the 2 years because he just had a max contract.
Yeah.
No, he's about to get a max contract. Say that he didn't want to resign, and then he has that power because one, he satisfied his original contract, and now I can see where I want to go. And I know he's going to give him like the biggest, fattest contract,
ever. You thought Jaylen Brown was something.
I was just about to say, Luka ain't gonna be able to get out the door. How much money gonna be in this house? Like, that's insane.
But hey, gotta get some assistance.
Mark Cuban's gonna make him one of the richest basketball players, European basketball players ever, and rightfully so because Luka deserves it.
Yeah.
But in that sense, he has the power. Okay, I can decide where to go. But if Zion asks for a trade, I don't know what's going on with Zion. He asks for a trade, then the power's not in his hands because one, you have to satisfy your contract, and then I don't know what they will get from you. You're not going to go somewhere you want to go because now your value, his value has went down significantly.
Oh yeah.
So it's situations vary, and then with KD satisfied his contract. I got the power to go where I want to go. So I mean that's the difference. But I think the players should have more power.
They should. Player empowerment
in this day and age. Yeah, definitely this day and age. This is not 1965 when they're going to pay $50,000. Like, bro.
Or you remember like the Magic contract? It was like the 25-year. What was it? I think 25 year, 25 year, 25,000 or something. And it didn't even sound like, if you look back at it then, they were like, oh my goodness, Magic. And now we're looking like, yo, that's like jump change.
No, basketball has definitely changed. More people are watching it, got more advertisement. But bruh, just looking at that, that's crazy. Even Michael Jordan was like, man, look, I wish I had the contracts these kids are having. I did. Most of his money came from endorsements.
Yeah.
That was the big money. Yeah. That's where you got your bread from, endorsements.
Yeah, definitely. And now transitioning to our next topic, Team USA's past few games, and kind of like what player has stood out. In their most recent tune-up game, they beat Spain 98-88. Jalen Brunson was a major key with 16 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 blocks plus assists in the first half. And, to me, like Anthony Edwards, Austin Reeves, and Tyrese Halliburton, they've been really major standouts. This is that kind of period of when you can see younger players like who are going to be the next guys up, who can really assist in things for Team USA. And that those guys have been. I mean, Anthony Edwards is going to be like a force.
Yes.
He's going to be a force in this league. Like, if you guys don't know yet, like that guy is really going to be something. What has stood out to you with Team USA so far, and maybe like some players that have been standouts?
Anthony Edwards. I've finally got the opportunity to watch him thoroughly because some of the games, we don't get some of the games because obviously they're in Minnesota. So I haven't been. I watch highlights. Highlights really doesn't tell you.
They don't
the
really
full
tell
scope.
the whole story.
Full
scope.
Bro!
Man, it's coming. The doors is.
We should do this every morning now. But Anthony Edwards finally realizing how great he is as a facilitator. Because we know he's a finisher. We know he's a slasher. But I've seen him get some dimes that I've never seen him do with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Insane.
He's a full all-around great basketball player. He's going to be a talent for NBA in future tense. He's a talent now, but he's not tapped his potential. His ability, his defense, I was I looked at that too. He plays some good
That's what
defense.
I'm saying.
He could play in the box. He could play at the wing. He could play at the top too. He could play
Yeah.
everywhere. You could put Anthony Edwards everywhere. He's going to be a vital piece to whatever you're doing. He's a menace on defense. He's a finisher at the rim. His jump. The only thing I'll say, this is nitpicking, his jump shot, his 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
I would
That can be
like
improved.
to, but that's how you know you're a good basketball player. If that's the
That can
only
be
thing
fixed
somebody
easily.
could say,
Yeah.
yes.
That can be fixed. Yeah.
Everybody, look, LeBron James, they was like, oh, his 3-point percentage need to go up. Did that. Giannis, they says 3-point percentage need to go up. Giannis did that and is improving his 3-point jump shot. Like all the great players that they said that something about the 3-point. They can't say anything about their creating their own shot, post up, whatever. They only say something about 3-point shot. I think that makes a good basketball player because that can be fixed. And I think with Anthony Edwards, that's the only thing nitpicking I can say about this game. But everything else, I'm astonished. Jeremy Reeves.
Also.
That's somebody from Pensacola. I'm crazy. Oh, Austin Reeves has impressed me too. To be on the court with a lot of great basketball players, because you used to being with LeBron and AD, but all these guys are good in their own right. Mm-hmm. So just him standing and holding his own and being able to showcase what he can do, I think he's going to be a good talent too. He's going to be one of those guys who's underrated for years to come. I don't think he'll ever reach his potential to where people are like, okay, Austin Reeves is raw. He never will be that, but I think he'll be an underrated player, which is, I think, look at Tony Parker. I think Tony Parker is one of the most underrated. He just got into the Hall of Fame. So
shout out to the Hall of Fame guy, Dwayne Wade, Dirk. I mean, so many people that were just really deserving of it. Like when you look back at those guys' careers, I mean, D Wade's one of the best shooting guards ever. Dirk with what he was able to do with the fadeaway, the one leg fadeaway, like that move was just so unstoppable. Even KD started imitating it. Like, what do you even think about this recent Hall of Fame inductees and just the legacy that they left?
You forgot about the Great White Snowman. What's going on, Wellington?
Popovich, Pop.
Great Popovich.
Our guy, Pop, man. We talk the Great White Snowman.
Yeah, nobody else calls him that but Full Scope. Let's just put that.
Yeah.
But nah, man, what a great class, bro. Greg Popovich really is in there. Tony Parker. I think out of the three, Ginobili's in there already. Yeah. So out of their big three, everybody's in, and then you got Dwayne Wade, one of the best shooting guards has ever stepped foot out of. Well, never mind. Michael Jordan's from Chicago. He played out of Chicago. He's not from Chicago. But the best shooting guard out of Chicago who was born and raised in Chicago because he's from, obviously, North Carolina. But, man, I just looking at his career, looking at Dirk, man, Dirk is so black. I was looking at his old interviews and how he talks. He's like, appreciate it, man. Like, he was just talking. I know his wife is black, and it's just that culture, how it just overtook his normal culture. Because this man, bro, this how great Dirk Nowitzki. He brought it a to-go plate from home with aluminum foil on it.
Oh yeah.
Not in a Tupperware. No, my bro brought a home cooked meal in aluminum foil to the game. Not to practice.
Not to practice. You're not talking about practice. You're talking about a game.
To the whole love. I think he dropped like 35 or 40 that game. So I don't know what was in that plate. But man, that was a good class. Dirk Nowitzki, Dwayne Wade, Greg Popovich, Tony Parker. It was somebody else I can't think of, but those are obviously the ones that stand out the most. But man, what a class. I think that's a good class. That's a good class. Dwayne Wade's finally got to deserve it. LeBron James is going to first-year ballot guy. As soon as he retires, they're going to put him in the Hall of Fame. If it's not that fast, I don't. What are we doing?
What's wrong with you guys? What are we doing here?
What are we doing?
And now get to our next topic with thoughts on Anthony Joshua's win over Robert Helenius and him wanting Deontay Wilder next. This past Saturday, Anthony Joshua scored a 7th-round knockout of Robert Helenius at the O2 Arena, which now sets up a potential showdown with former world heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder. And it's interesting because Joshua, he did get the win, but I think everybody knows Deontay Wilder. That's just a different This is a different class for Joshua, and I still don't even from this fight, I still don't see him being in that shape or even in that mentality to be ready for a Deontay Wilder. Like, what did you think about this win? Obviously, the big news of him wanting Deontay Wilder next.
So obviously, Robert fought both of these guys. Obviously, Robert got knocked out sooner than he got knocked out with. But I think when he fought Anthony Joshua was more of a fatigue thing. Because with that head fake, it was so tired and lazy that he thought he was gonna like get out the way. But if he was like still in it, but this is heavyweight that comes with boxing, fatigue, being tired, and I think that was a fatigue knockout. It wasn't like he was pressuring him the whole entire fight. He was so not tentative, but he was so, hesitant. Anthony Joshua doesn't have that push and dog in him that he has previous years. He's not a pressure boxer anymore. He's more of a wait and see, which is fine, but you can't do that against Deontay Wilder.
You can't do it against those guys.
Because he's an aggressor. Yeah. Right, he's an aggressor. Robert doesn't have the fatigue, have the energy or the stamina to pressure you for the first 5. Deontay Wilder does, and there were some punches that Robert was doing that was landing. And if that was Deontay Wilder, bro, you'd be kissing canvas. You're not ready.
Yeah.
He's not ready. He didn't show me anything. He didn't show me that fire, that pressure boxing. You're gonna have to pressure these guys. Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, you're gonna have to pressure him. You're gonna outbox him. You can't outbox him. Deontay Wilder, you're gonna have to pressure him and land and counter. But if you don't counter, I don't think he's a counter boxer, because even when Robert was throwing something, he wasn't countering like that. So he's not ready mentally. He's not. I will give him this. He did have enough stamina. I think that was the difference, because Joshua normally is a pressure fighter, and about 5th or 6th round, he's in that daze, and then 7th, 8th round, he'll catch his win again. But he didn't show me anything impressive enough to be ready for Deontay Wilder. When Deontay Wilder beat that guy, I think knocked him out in the 3rd round.
Third round. Yeah. I mean, easy work. Much easier work for Deontay Wilder.
Fish and chips. Fish and chips. That's what it was for Anthony Joshua. Fish and chips.
And another fight that's obviously coming up with Canelo and Jermell Charlo. That's going to be very interesting, because we're getting into that zone of. I mean, obviously with what Terrence Crawford did, he's talking about different fights he might want. He said the potential even of a Canelo fight down the line would be something if they go up in weight. But to you, what are your thoughts on the Canelo and Jermell Charlo fight? And obviously, Canelo is one of the biggest stars in boxing, and just some of your early takeaways of how that fight might look, and who could be that next biggest star in boxing.
There's going to be a lot of them, because that's how boxing is gearing up now. It rotates now. Charlo has been selling out for a while. He was selling out at the Crawford and Spence fight, selling out in the crowd So I'm glad he's getting Canelo, because I think Canelo is still a top tier boxer, and I think he has the upper hand against Terrence. But not by much. I think Canelo is it's very slight. I think he's a better counter puncher, and I think he's a pressure fighter who can actually adjust to what the boxer is doing. And that was the difference, obviously, or Errol Spence. He's a pressure fighter, but he couldn't adjust. But I think with Canelo's IQ and what we've seen in the previous fights, he can adjust midway. His team can adjust to midway. I think that was lacking. And I think that's what gives him the upper hand against Bud, because Bud is not going to do that type of fighting with every fighter. He did that with Errol Spence Jr. He's not going to do that with Canelo. He's going to be trying to counter. He's going to try to move and get out the way. But Canelo can pressure. But anyway, we're talking about Canelo and Charlo. And I think I don't think it's going to be a knockout between these guys. I think Canelo's going to outbox him. And
it'll go to decision, probably.
Yeah, I think it will go to decision.
Canelo fights go.
Yeah, and he's not going to knock him out unless you give him that opening and you make a huge mistake that you can't recover from, and you just leave it so wide open. He's going to knock you out. He's going to knock your teeth out and your mouthpiece and your everything's coming out. ESPN. All those teeth, ugula.
How will he recover?
That's exactly how the intro is going to be. But I think he's going to outbox him because I think his IQ is better than Charlo. Charlo, he's one of those guys who depends on his knockout power and
Yeah.
trying to knock guys out. You ain't got to knock Canelo out because he
Nah,
doesn't make
I'm so
many
sorry.
mistakes. Because I think it's going to be a similar situation with Errol Spence. Are you going to be able to adjust? Because Charlo is a pressure fighter as well in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to adjust to a guy like Canelo who can counterpunch just like Bud, who can pressure as well too, who's going to
Yeah.
stand in the middle and throw punches with you, and you're going to have to take some
You have to
punches
take
too
it
to
back.
be yeah. So I
You have
think
to take it.
it's going to be go to decision. Canelo's going to win obviously, and then once Charlo is ready for Bud is going to knock Charlo out because he
For
makes too
sure.
many mistakes.
For
He makes
sure,
too many
bro.
mistakes. He's open book. And I think that's what he's not realizing. And that's what I realized after the Errol Spence Jr. fight. Errol, before that fight, he took a lot of punches
Oh yeah.
in previous fight. He just walked them down
And he
because
was
he's a
good with
pressure
it, but
fighter.
with
Yeah,
Bud, nah,
Bud
it
got
had
some power.
yeah, this
Yeah,
was a very high level power. What do you think? Do you think Tank fights Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney next?
Devin Haney isn't ready, but I think the world is ready for that fight
Yeah, I think the world is too.
because we always get those little tidbit stories about how they, you know, sparred
They
and
sparred together and nobody
yeah.
saw it.
But Haney did say he did touch me. Well, he did. He hit me with a real good one.
Uh-huh.
But just watching David Haney fight and he got saved in that last fight, he
Oh
lost.
yeah, from yeah. By the way, Lomachenko
Yeah,
won that fight.
he
Lomachenko
definitely
definitely
won that
won that
fight.
fight. Yeah.
Hands down. I don't understand it. But I don't think Haney is ready for that fight mentally and physically, IQ wise as well. Because
Yeah.
it's gonna take a lot. He Tank and he's becoming my favorite fighter in this day and age. He's the guy who doesn't care about taking some fire to read and to get information to how to beat
I
you.
love that.
It's a lot of fights he's been in and out in the Westcom. Even with the Garcia, he was in
Yeah.
there in the fire, and then he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna catch you. I
Mhm.
got you." Boom. So he was doing that the whole time. He was ducking. He was like, "Okay, he do that one more time. I'm gonna get him."
And
And the other,
he's loading it all in his mind. Like he's just
yes,
taking the data
yes,
like his trainer says, just I think Calvin Ford, just taking the data in, and once
yes,
he knows it, he's gonna pounce.
yes. And it's no other fighter like that.
Mm.
No other fighter gets in that fire and collects that type of data. Who has the chin? And I think that's a lot of people not understanding. Tank has a strong chin because I've seen him get tagged a couple times
Mm.
and just duck out of it and move out of it. And
Yeah,
then he'll adjust to it. He was like, okay, that's what he does if I get into this. So, all right, this is how I'm gonna adjust. There's nobody gonna beat Tank Davis unless he gets like older. But I don't think anybody will beat him. Not Devin Haney, not Stevenson. I don't think Stevenson has enough because they're not gonna last the entire bout. Somebody's gonna get knocked
I
out.
don't think Stevenson can last an entire.
No,
Yeah, yeah. It's
nah.
just too much power. Like those fights, those types of fights, they're not going to decision. Somebody's getting.
No.
Not gonna, there's too much
Because
power with those guys.
that's his game.
Yeah,
He's a pressure fighter, he's a counter puncher, and he's a I'll get in the fire. That's what
yeah,
type of fighter he is. And with that formula, somebody's gonna get knocked out.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's gonna get knocked out.
And before we move on to our movie review, I know we're gonna do some of the album reviews next week, but obviously 50 years of hip hop, that was the 50-year anniversary of hip hop was last week, and we review so many hip hop albums. We've done throwback reviews. It's one of the most powerful genres in music that we've ever had. It took over the scene. It's been able to dominate for so many years. Like looking back at the anniversary of it, the commemorations, the celebration, the performances that they've had. Like what have you thought of? What are just your takeaways of 50 years of hip hop and just the lasting impact it's had on our culture?
Just thinking about 50 years and how hip hop was started and where we are now is nowhere near what it was when it's created. And I think that's a negative thing more than a positive thing. Obviously, things involve
Yeah,
things
changes.
change, but the root and the foundation of what hip hop was is taking a turn for the worse. It was the voice of black people. You look at NWA, you look at Rakim, Curious One, all these like all the guys dedicated, all these guys who paved the way why hip hop was created and why it was used as a tool to vocalize what's going on in their communities.
And looking
And
back at
that's
that
what,
Straight Outta Compton movie, bro.
yeah,
That movie's
bro.
on. So I mean, I watch it like every time it's on. It's just like, yo, this is golden history, man.
They were doing terrible things, but they were also with the
Yeah.
message. But that was hip hop was. It was the message. It was the voice of the common black people in their communities. It was an extension of Black Panthers, and and what they did. And all these other organizations. That's what they've done to spring forward Black people and African Americans. So it was just where it has been and where it's going now and where it's at now, man. It's a totally different face. Every facet of hip hop, there's well, not every, it's new facets of hip hop now that has been tangled and strand and planted their flag. But I wish that we get back to the original
The
flag of
roots.
hip hop, the roots of hip hop. But
And we've
50
got some
years,
artists.
man.
We've got some artists that are still doing that, but I think the
Yes, of
majority of it is
course.
being
Yeah.
drowned out.
It's been
Because
drowned out. Yeah.
definitely.
It's been drowned out. It's being diluted. Just but we still have old heads or like you said, guys who are in the hip hop who still
Respect the
wants it.
craft.
Yes, who are hip hop connoisseurs who's still in there. Just look at the bro. Wu Tang. Just bro, they were so different. Yes, yeah, hip hop is amazing, man. Hip hop. But there's nobody like Wu Tang anymore, or will
No,
ever be like Wu Tang.
and we're gonna do some Wu Tang throwback reviews coming up because there's just there like we said there are so many classic hip hop albums in the past we can review because it's such a golden
Yes.
genre and it's so rich. So yeah, those guys, man, Wu Tang,
Shimmy, y'all, yeah. Yo, nobody was rapping
different,
like them.
different,
Nobody was rapping like them, bro. ODB.
absolutely. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back with our They Clone Tyrone review.